I think the more clips of JD Vance like that circulate, it may not change the mind of Republican strategists
Yeah.
who didn't like what he said, but there are a lot of women across America who probably didn't care for either Trump or Biden, um, who are going to hear that and think, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I will just go vote for Kamala Harris because the other, this is just reinforcing how extreme the Republican Party has become. And it's, whereas Trump could have had a more of a consensus Republican choice who could have appealed to new voters. This just reminds voters of everything they don't like about Trump and his brand of politics.
Last week, it was all about JD Vance, the senator from Ohio, who was revealed in Milwaukee before our eyes as Donald Trump's running mate. Went down a storm among the party faithful in Milwaukee. Now there's a view that, I don't know, is he yesterday's choice? It showed great confidence on Donald Trump's part to choose JD Vance, who's more Trumpite than Trump in so many ways, goes down so well with the base. But is he now the guy to reach across to those who need converting, or to the undecided American voters who may well decide this election, especially now that Kamala Harris is managing to, I don't know, solidify and spread that Democrat appeal? And there are serious questions being asked about J.D. Vance, about that, the liabilities as well as the assets in J.D. Vance. And here's one. Let me just point this out to you. It was a clip from 2021.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
So that's the Donald Trump's running mate, labeling Kamala Harris in the category of people who he described as childless cat ladies without a stake in society. Maybe not the best chosen form of words when you pull them back from 2021 and lay them out before American women. I'm guessing not too many of whom are going to be very pleased by that. Certainly Amanda Mackey, who I also spoke to a short while ago, the Republican strategist, she didn't seem too impressed.
As a childless woman myself, I'd say I don't like that he said that. Plain and simple.
Is it a vote loser?
But,
Is it a vote loser, Amanda?
There are going to be some people who would say, I don't like that he said that. That bothers me. But then again, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have made it infinitely more difficult for me to be able to put food on the table, a roof over my head. Rent's gone up. I can't afford to buy a house because interest rates are so high. So I think that James Carville said it best, 1992, Bill Clinton's chief strategist. It's about the economy, stupid. So you can make stupid comments. I certainly don't appreciate that comment. However, if it comes down to me being able to put food on the table and a roof over my head and gas in my car, that's what I'm concerned about as an American.
So that was the Republican strategist Amanda Mackey doing her best to move on from that comment, which is being played and shown all over social media right now. Sabrina Siddiqui at the Wall Street Journal there in America. When you hear that clip now, and it's getting a lot of play, Team Trump must be sitting there thinking, oh my word, I wish that had not happened, mustn't they?
I think in general, one thing that you raised when you brought up JD Vance is that it was a decision that was really born out of confidence by former President Trump and his campaign. They were coasting when they chose Vance because it was in the aftermath of President Biden's disastrous debate performance when this conversation was raging within the Democratic Party over whether Biden should step aside. And then, there also was attempted assassination on former President Trump that, helped galvanize a lot of support in his favor. And so they didn't really think they had anything to lose and felt like we could just double down on the so-called MAGA brand that has defined Trump and his time in politics. And I guess double down on the working class white voters that comprise of Trump's base. Now you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against Kamala Harris. And so it goes back to what we were saying about needing to appeal to voters who are more middle of the road, suburban voters, college educated white voters, independent voters. And also, there's, I think, not risk someone who's going to energize the Democratic base. And I think the more clips of JD Vance like that circulate, It may not change the mind of a Republican strategist
Yeah.
who didn't like what he said, but there are a lot of women across America who probably didn't care for either Trump or Biden, who are going to hear that and think, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I will just go vote for Kamala Harris because the other, this is just reinforcing how extreme the Republican Party has become. And it's, whereas Trump could have had a more of a consensus Republican choice, who could have appealed to new voters. This just reminds voters of everything they don't like about Trump and his brand of politics.
Right. I mean, I'll tell you what, there were a lot of eye-catching contributions floating around on social media, as there always will be. I mean, with George Parker and Kate Ferguson sitting here, I just want you all to listen to this. This was Liz Truss, who's been intervening in the American election campaign. She was asked on Fox News if she thought America had a problem electing women.
No, I don't. I think there have been some brilliant American women in politics, but I don't think Kamala Harris is one of them. She was given the specific job of sorting out immigration on the southern border. It is now at crisis point. She has not delivered as vice president, and she's got the job now because of the crazy situation with President Biden retiring at the last minute, even though everybody in America knew that he was not up to the job. So she has got the job. She's got the nomination, or she's about to get the nomination, in what is a very, very bizarre scenario. What I hate is identity politics. We shouldn't care if somebody is an ethnic minority. We shouldn't care if they're a woman. We should be caring about, can they do the job? And she is not proven as vice president she can do the job. And I think we are going to see a situation similar to what we saw in the UK. I think there will be a landslide against the incumbent party because they have not delivered for the American people.
Well, that was a thumbs down then from Liz Truss, who didn't seem too impressed with Kamala Harris's record of political competence. George?
No, I'm sure the Americans would be delighted to be taking advice from Liz Truss on the issue of leadership and political competence. I love it when she goes on air on American TV stations. She's always captioned as UK Prime Minister September to October 2022. It's one of those damning captions I've ever seen. I mean, it's funny actually, Liz Truss obviously sees her career now as a sort of media commentator in the States. We hear very little of her back in the UK now. Of course, she lost the seat at the election.
Yeah. God give us all the skin, the thick skin that Liz Truss obviously inherited.
Yeah.
Life would be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
It is a curious feature of etiquette and protocol in America, that once a prime minister, always a prime minister. A president is always addressed as president, a prime minister as prime minister, an ambassador is always ambassador, and a governor. So maybe Liz Truss can enjoy that.
Yeah, she's exactly always long-running prime minister in one country at least.
Yeah, I should say that while we are speaking, I've got an eye now on the live picture feed from Congress on Capitol Hill, where in just a moment or two's time we're going to be hearing the address to both houses of Congress from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They're at the Republican side's invitation. He's actually, with this appearance on Capitol Hill, outdone Winston Churchill. I think he only got 3 invitations. Benjamin Netanyahu is about to rack up his 4th. And as I speak, the members, the senators, the Congress members are on their feet clapping as the Prime Minister's party come into the room. Still with us, Sabrina Siddiqui at the Wall Street Journal in America. Important speech this, isn't it, for Netanyahu and for the course of this debate over Gaza, Sabrina?
It is, and I think what's notable is that there are a lot of domestic politics at play here in the U.S. surrounding Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech, and there are actually dozens of lawmakers, including some Democratic leaders, who are boycotting the speech.
Yeah.
Because of how Netanyahu has waged this war, disagreements over Israel's conduct in Gaza with high civilian casualties, obviously widespread starvation, and even a sense that he has not prioritized the release of the hostages who are being held by Hamas. He has no plans. We've heard from a lot of lawmakers who say he has no plans for post-war Gaza, and that this is ultimately a speech that's more about his own political survival than it is about the direction of the war.
Yes.
So, I think that it's a speech that's happening against the backdrop of much more questions than we've seen in the past surrounding the U.S.-Israel relationship. But I also think that there's not changing much in terms of the U.S. policy toward Israel and support for its war effort and the decision to continue supplying aid and weapons to Israel. but it shows you just how much, especially in an election year, the politics around this issue have changed. You know, when it was once, when support for Israel was once widely bipartisan and sacrosanct, now a lot of Americans are questioning the nature of that relationship.
Okay.